Hey there everyone, hope you're all well. Welcome back to our channel, and in today's video we're about to embark on an incredible journey into the world of web development, and we're going to dive headfirst into the world of JavaScript. Now JavaScript is the programming language that can breathe life into your web pages, making them dynamic and interactive. So whether you're a complete beginner or you have some coding experience, this video is your ticket to understanding the essentials of JavaScript. We'll cover the basics of JavaScript and things like variables and functions, and show you how to start creating your own interactive web pages. So if you're ready to add a touch of magic to your web development skills, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel for more exciting content, and let's dive in. So what is JavaScript and what is it used for? So JavaScript is a versatile and widely used programming language, primarily known for its role in web development. It allows developers to create interactive and dynamic elements within websites and web applications. So JavaScript is executed on the client side, meaning it runs directly in the user's browser, enabling real-time changes to be made to the content and appearance of a web page without requiring a full page reload. Some key points about JavaScript. First thing is about client-side scripting. So JavaScript is primarily used for client-side scripting, which basically means it's executed within the user's browser. And this enables the creation of interactive features like form validation, animations, and updating content without requiring communication with the web server. JavaScript is a really fundamental part of modern web development because it's used to enhance user experience by creating responsive designs and build complex web applications as well. While JavaScript is mainly associated with web development, it has expanded beyond browsers with technologies like Node.js. JavaScript can also be used on the server side as well, allowing developers to create full-stack web applications. JavaScript uses a C-style syntax, making it somewhat similar to other programming languages like Java and C++. It can be embedded directly within the HTML files or included as separate script files. JavaScript is event-driven, which means it responds to user actions and events like clicks, key presses, and mouse movements. Developers can write code that reacts to these events, making websites more interactive and user-friendly. There are numerous libraries and frameworks built on top of JavaScript, such as jQuery, React, Angular, and Vue.js. These tools provide developers with pre-built components and abstractions to simplify the process of building complex applications. JavaScript is supported by all major web browsers, making it highly compatible and accessible for users across different platforms. In essence, JavaScript is the driving force behind the interactive and dynamic aspects of a website. It powers developers to create engaging user experience and build a wide range of web applications, from simple scripts to complex high-page applications. So JavaScript plays a really pivotal role in modern software development, particularly in web development, due to its versatility and ability to create dynamic and interactive user experiences. Here are some key reasons why JavaScript is so important. First side is the client-side interactivity. So JavaScript enables developers to create interactive elements within web pages like animations, form validations, sliders, and pop-up dialogues. All of these enhance user engagement and provide a more dynamic and engaging user experience. JavaScript allows developers to update content on a web page without requiring a full page refresh. This dynamic content loading leads to faster and smoother interactions, overall improving the user experience. And with JavaScript, developers can build responsive web applications that adapt to different screen sizes. This is really crucial for providing a seamless experience across desktop, tablets, and smartphones. And JavaScript frameworks like React, Angular, and Vue.js enable the creation of SPAs, where a single HTML page serves as a foundation for an application that dynamically updates content as users interact with it. And this kind of approach reduces page reloads and provides a more fluid experience. JavaScript supports asynchronous programming, which basically allows developers to execute tasks without blocking the main execution thread. And this is crucial for tasks like making API calls, handling user input, and managing background processes. JavaScript frameworks and libraries enable the creation of sophisticated user interfaces with reusable components, state management, and efficient data binding. This makes it easier to build complex applications while maintaining a clean code base. JavaScript is supported by all major web browsers, making it a universal language for creating interactive web content that works across different platforms. The JavaScript community is vast and active, resulting in a wealth of open source libraries, frameworks, and tools. This ecosystem development makes development more efficient by providing pre-built solutions to common challenges. So let's talk about the basic structure of JavaScript. It involves writing statements and blocks of code that are executed by a web browser or JavaScript runtime environment. Here is an overview of the basic structure. first off, we have something called statements. So JavaScript code consists of a series of statements. Each statement is a single instruction that performs a specific action. Statements are usually terminated by a semicolon, like this, although JavaScript also supports automatically semicolon insertion in many cases. So this is an example here. You have the variable declaration here, and then you have them all closed by semicolons. So variables are something that JavaScript uses to store and manage data. Variables are declared using the var, let, and const keywords. JavaScript supports various data types like numbers, strings, boolean, objects, arrays, and more. So to declare a variable, is as simple as this. So you have the var declaration, then you have the name of the data that we want to store and the actual data. So functions are blocks of code that can be defined and reused to perform specific tasks. They allow you to encapsulate logic and execute whenever needed. So it looks something like this. So functions are declared like that. You have give it the function names, and then you give the function instruction as well, which you have the sum of the variables, add numbers 5 and 7. Next up we have control structures, and control structures provide more, allows for more managing the flow of execution. Common control structures include if statements, loop statements, and switch statements, and it looks something like this. So you have an if-else statement here, and that helps control the flow of the page. Comments are used to add explanations or notes to your code. JavaScript supports single-line comments like this, and multi-line comments as well. So something like this. You've got a single line comment, and then you've got the multi-line comment as well. Objects and properties. Objects are essentially key value pairs. Properties are methods that can be accessed using dot notation or bracket notation, and it looks something like this. And lastly, we have events. So JavaScript can use and interact with user actions and events on a web page, and you can attach event listeners to elements to trigger specific code when events are clicked or keyboard inputs occur. So for example, we've got event listener here, and the event listening is click. If someone were to click on the button that has the element my button, then it will log in the console button clicked. Remember that JavaScript code can be executed directly with HTML files using script tags, or can be linked from external script files. The basic structure outlined here forms the foundation of more complex JavaScript programs and applications. So let's talk about one of the most important concepts of JavaScript, which is variables and data types. So JavaScript allows you to store and manipulate data using variables. Variables act as containers for holding different types of information like numbers, strings, booleans, and lots more. So understanding data types and how to declare and use variables is crucial for any JavaScript language. So to declare a language, or to declare a variable, you use this var type here. The var statement is used to declare variables, but it has some quick quirks and scoping issues that have led to preferences for let and const in modern JavaScript development. So let introduces block level scoping, meaning a variable declared with let is only accessible within the block code where it's actually defined. And then you have const, so also block scoped like let, but it's used for declaring constants. And constants are values that won't change after assignment. And data types are basically types of data. So essentially JavaScript has several built-in data types that categorize the kind of variable it can hold. So first of all, you have the primitive data type, and these are numbers, which represents both integer and floating point numbers, strings, which represent actual textual data enclosed in single or double quotes. We have boolean, represents either true or false. You have undefined, so represents a variable that hasn't been declared yet, but has been declared but hasn't been assigned a value yet. Then you have null, represents the intentional absence of any value or object reference. And then you have symbol, which is a really unique immutable value, often used as object properties. Then you have a complex data type. And these are essentially objects, which represent a collection of key value pairs, where keys are strings and values can be of any data type, including any other object. You have arrays, so represent an ordered collection of values, typically the same data type. And then you have function, which represents a reusable block of code that can be invoked with arguments. And then you have date, so represents a specific moment in time, allowing for various date and manipulation. Then you have regex, which represents a regular expression used for pattern matching within strings. So here as an example of a bunch of variables being declared with different data types, and then a function being used, and then invoking the function as well. So understanding variables and data types is crucial because they form the building blocks for manipulating and storing data and information in your JavaScript programs. Proper usage of variables and knowledge of data helps prevent errors and ensures your code behaves as intended. So next up, the next concept is functions and control flow. So function is basically a block of reusable code that can perform specific tasks or calculations. They play a vital role in organizing and managing your code, and they introduce viewers to creating functions, passing arguments, and returning values as well. Functions help you modularize your code, making it easier to manage, debug, and maintain. In JavaScript, you can define a function using the function keyword, followed by the function action name. So here is an example. You have the function name. So we've got the function here, and we've told what the function should do. So this is the output of the function. So greet Alice outputs hello Alice, and greet Bob outputs hello Bob. We've got the function instruction here. Functions can also take input parameters and perform operations on them and return values. So functions that return a value uses the return keyword. It looks something like this. And you can see the return keyword here, and it will return with the function that we've instructed it to do so as well. So next up we have control flow, and control flow refers to the order in which statements are executed in a program. So JavaScript provides control flow structures that enable you to make decisions and repeat based actions on conditions. Common control flow instructions include if, which executes a block of code if a specific condition is true, else if, used to test additional conditions after the if condition, and else executes a block of code if none of the previous conditions are true. So in this example here, you can see that number, an instruction is being set here, and then you have the control flow to give a set of instructions as well. So next up we have objects and object-oriented programming, and they are core concepts of JavaScript and many other programming languages. They provide a way to model real-world entities and their interactions in your code. So an object is a complex data type that groups related data and behaviors together. So objects are made up of key value pairs, where each key is a property name and its corresponding value can be any data type, including other objects, and this allows you to represent real-world entities and their attributes in your code. So here's an example of an object representing a person. In this example above, you have first name, last name, and age are properties of the object, which is person, and and the greet is a method associated with the object. So object-oriented programming is a programming paradigm that revolves around the concept of objects. It focuses on organizing code into self-contained objects that can communicate with each other to perform tasks. OOP is based on 4 main principles. You have encapsulation, which is bundling data, so properties and behaviors, methods that operate on the data into a single unit, and this promotes data protection and controlled access. You have abstraction, so simplifying complex reality by modeling data that expose only relevant information and hide implementation details. Then you have inheritance, so creating a new class or subclass that inherits properties and methods from an existing class, and this promotes code reusability and hierarchy. And then you have polymorphism, so allowing objects of different classes to be treated as objects of common superclass. This enables more generic code that can work with different types of code. In JavaScript, you can implement OOP principles through the use of a constructor, classes, and prototypes. So here's a simple example using constructor functions. You have, in this example, the car constructor over here is used to create our car objects, and the drive method is added to the prototype car constructor to ensure that all car objects share the same method. So by understanding objects and object-oriented programming, you can create more organized, modular, and maintainable code that models real-world concepts effectively. And there you have it, fellow coders. We've navigated the intricate landscapes of object-oriented programming, and we've also talked about some key concepts in JavaScript. From creating objects to declaring variables and encapsulating, you've gained a solid grasp of these essential concepts. Remember, objects are the building blocks that allow you to sculpt your code into elegant and organized structures. And as you continue into your coding journey, keep experimenting, innovating, and applying what you've learned here. The possibilities are limitless, and the world of programming is yours to explore. So that was our last video on our series of Web Development Simplified. If you find these videos helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share with your fellow coders, and hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for more exciting coding adventures. Feel free to drop your questions or ideas in the comments below. We'd love hearing from you. And until next time, happy coding, and may your objects always be well structured and your functions ever efficient. Thanks again, and see you guys in the next one. So firstly, you have HTML, which stands for Hypertext Markup Language. HTML is used to create the structure of a web page, and it defines the content of the page, including headings, paragraphs, images, and links. HTML is a markup language, meaning it uses tags to define the structure and content of a web page. So for example, if you wanted to create a heading in HTML, you would use the following code. So a few concepts to understand whenever you're typing HTML. The first thing that you want to make sure of is HTML tags. So HTML tags are used to define the different elements of a web page. So tags are enclosed in this kind of angle bracket here, and are used to specify the beginning and end of an element. So in this this bit of HTML is using the h1 tags to define a h1 heading. The next thing that you want to look at is attributes. So attributes can have, so HTML tags have attributes, and this attribute essentially provides additional information about the element. So for example, the image attribute is used to display an image, and it has an src, so this src line here, attribute that specifies the location of the image file. So this image tag here, so this is the tag, so this is an attribute, and the attribute are within these tabs, these tags here. And then the source attribute is what tells us where to find the image itself. The next concept in HTML is nesting. So nesting it refers to whenever HTML elements are essentially inside of each other to create more complex structure. For example, you might have a div element that contains several other elements like paragraphs, headings, and image. So it would look something like this. So you can see within this div attribute, so within this tag here, there's other elements within that as well. So this is what's known as nesting. And next thing then you have semantic HTML. So semantic HTML is the practice of using HTML tags in a way that accurately reflects the meaning and structure of the content. So for example, you might use header. to define the header of a web page, and the nav tag to define the navigation menu. So it's just essentially when the name of the tag accurately reflects what that tag is, or and what the function is meant to be as well. These are just a few examples, but overall HTML is a fundamental language for web development as it provides the structure and content of a web page. By using HTML tags and attributes to define the elements of a web page, web developers can create engaging and accessible websites that meet the needs of their users as well. The next programming language used in web development is CSS, stands for Cascading Style Sheets, and it's a style sheet language used to define the visual style and layout of a web page. CSS is used to control the appearance of HTML elements, such as the font size, color, and spacing. So there are some key concepts to understand when it comes to CSS. One of these concepts is selectors. So selectors are basically used by CSS to target specific HTML elements and apply style sheets and apply certain styles to them. Selectors can target elements by their tag name, their class name, ID, or other attributes. So for example, to target all the H1 elements on a web page, you would use the following selector. You'd use the H1 selector, and then you'd add the styling of that you want to apply to that particular sector. Next thing you have is properties. So CSS properties define the style of an element. Properties can be used to control a wide range of visual aspects like the font size, color, background color, padding, margin, and things like that. So for example, to set the font size of all the paragraphs on a web page, you would use the following property. You'd use the font size property, and you target the paragraph elements using the P attribute here as well. CSS can also be used to create responsive web designs that adapt to different screen sizes and devices. And this is typically achieved using the media queries, which allow you to apply different styles based on the width of the viewport. So for example, you might have a media query that applies to a different layout and font size for mobile devices. And this is kind of how it's set up. So you have you define what width you want the style to be set up, and then you apply the styles on the specific elements that you want to apply the style to. So when it comes to CSS, you can fully code the CSS framework by yourself, but there are also frameworks available that essentially are free to use to make the CSS programming a little bit easier. One of these examples is Bootstrap. So Bootstrap is a popular open source framework that provides a set of pre-designed HTML, CSS, and JavaScript components and tools to create responsive and mobile-first applications quickly. So Bootstrap CSS is a component of the Bootstrap framework that provides a set of CSS classes and styles to help developers create consistent, responsive, and visually appealing user interfaces as well, and includes a wide range of UI components like buttons, forms, tablets, tables, grids, and loads more, and it's all styled in a modern and professional way. So one of the main benefits of using Bootstrap CSS is that it allows developers to create responsive designs that adapt to different screen sizes and devices automatically. Bootstrap uses a grid system based on rows and columns, which enables developers to kind of create flexible and dynamic layouts that can adjust to various screen sizes and resolutions as well. In addition to that, Bootstrap CSS includes a set of utility classes that enable developers to apply common styles and layouts as quickly, such as padding, margin, text alignment, and more. These classes can be added to any HTML element, making it easy to create consistent and polished designs with minimal effort. Overall, Bootstrap CSS is a powerful tool for building modern and responsive web applications quickly and efficiently, making it a popular choice for developers around the world.
It uses things like container classes. So the container class is one of the most important Bootstrap classes, and it's what provides the margin, padding, alignments, and more to all the HTML elements. So you can see within this code here, everything is within a class called container. Within the class then is all is all of the rows and all of the columns, and then within those is where you put the element tags, such as heading tags, paragraph tags, things like that. So you can see it's linked here, the Bootstrap CSS, and with using the CSS, so you see this whole container, everything, you've got the row here, and then you've got the column. So you've got the first container, which is this container here. Then you've got the first row, which is this row here. Then you've got the first column, and this is this first column here. So you can see it's a column structure of 4. So you've got the first column with the elements, with the H2 element and the paragraph element here. And you can see that the column is already aligned for you, one by one beside each other, instead of it stacking on top of each other. Same with the columns beside it. So you've got this column here and you've got this column here as well. And all of the elements that are within this column stay within this column on the front end as well. And then all of the columns itself are contained within this row. And the row itself is contained within this container. So it's all in one container and everything's organized within the container. And this CSS code up here provides the actual padding, alignments, and a lot more to the HTML elements as well. Containers are really fundamental to building your Bootstrap website. Again, as previously mentioned, they contain containers, padding, and alignment, and align your content within the actual device viewport and not as a static amount of viewport. And they're a very, very basic layout element in Bootstrap, and they are required when using the Bootstrap grid system. So containers, again, contain the padding. They sometimes center the content within them, and while the containers can be nested, most layouts don't require a nested container. So Bootstrap comes with 3 different containers. There's a doc container, there's a doc container which sets a max width at each responsive breakpoint level. Then there's container fluid, which is a width of 100% at all breakpoints. And then there's container with breakpoint within the curly braces, which is width at 100% until the specified breakpoint. So just to show you how each max width compares to the original container and doc container fluid. You can see the container fluid takes up 100%. Then you've got the actual containers with the breakpoints aligned, and they take up whatever alignment that we've set. So those are the kind of main differences between all the container types. So Bootstrap comes with uses grid layouts to build your Bootstrap grid system, and there's different grid layouts that they have that you can use to kind of organize your content. So and you can find these on Get Bootstrap documentation. So it's just on this page here. So you can see they've got 5 grid tiers. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you can see each of them have a different viewport size. And all you need to do is add these classes into your code editor, and then add the elements within each of these classes, and then the CSS styling will help you kind of organize all of this content using the CSS style rules. So this is three column. This is 3 equal columns. Then you've got 3 equal different alternative to the 3 equal columns. You've got 3 unequal columns. This is using this is a 3 and a 3 and a 6. So this will make the middle column a lot bigger than the beside 2 columns. Then you've got uneven 2 columns, things like that. So you can use these columns basically to kind of organize your content structure as well. It'd be really good for you to kind of get familiar with their basic grid layout so that you can start building within the Bootstrap grid system. So that's what Bootstrap uses to build out their content. So their default container class is responsive, and it's a fixed width container, meaning its max width will change at each breakpoint. And that's this container class here. So you type in div container and then type in whatever content here. That might be h1 element. And any other elements that you kind of want to add. You can add any types of elements as well. If you wanted to add a paragraph, and you can see that the container class gets added, and then what you can do is resize and also auto rotate the screen as well to kind of see what this class is going to look like. So this is their default container, but then they also have, all of the containers are responsive. So responsive containers allow you to specify a class that is 100% wide until the specified breakpoint is reached. After that, you apply the max width attribute for each of the higher breakpoints. So for example, this class here, if we type in container.sm, is 100% until you start to add the SM breakpoint, where it will scale up with MD, LG, XL, and XXL. So the way you would add that is you would add div class equals container SM, so this will be 100% wide until a small breakpoint is reached, basically. Then you can also have container MD, so it's 100% wide until a medium breakpoint is reached. Then you've also got container LG, which is 100% wide until a large breakpoint is reached. And then you've got container XL, which is 100% wide until an extra large breakpoint is reached. And then finally, you've also got XXL, which is 100% wide until an extra large breakpoint is reached. So yeah, you've got different options for the responsive classes, and you've also got a lot to work with as well. They're all fully responsive, so all you need to do is make sure you import the CSS rules here, and then you've got and then just use whatever div classes that you need for that particular bit of content. Another helpful tip is to use container fluid for full width container. That's going to span the entire width of the viewport. So this content here will span the entire width of the content that you add, and that's using the container fluid class. In addition to using Bootstrap here, you can see Bootstrap makes a lot of predefined container classes to help you build the layouts, but you can also customize those container classes by by modifying the Sass map, and you can find that in the .css theme file, known as variables. So when you find that theme file, all you need to do is look for the CSS that configures the max widths, and it'll look something like this. And then you need to just set your own width class. So they'll come with their own predefined max width, and all you need to do is change these values here if you wanted to use your own variables for the Bootstrap. So in terms of breakpoints are basically customizable width that determines how your responsive layout behaves across each device or each viewport in Bootstrap. So the main concepts are breakpoints are the building blocks of responsive design. So use them whenever your layout can be adapted at a particular viewport or size. Use media queries to make your own CSS by using the breakpoints. So media queries are a rule of CSS that allow you to conditionally apply styles based on a set of browser settings. So things like min width, max width are examples of media queries. So for example, if you were to use min width, so it would be at media, screen, and for example, if we were to use min width at 600 px, and then you type in the actual container or class or identifier that you want to affect at that breakpoint, and then the actual attribute that you want to change. So this rule basically means once the viewport hits a width of 600 and more, then it will follow this rule. So it'll look at this container and change the font size of any text element in this container to 30 pixels. So you can use media queries to change things like font size. You can use media queries to hide things as well. So if you were, for example, change that to the rule to display none, then that will basically, then using this rule, this class, this section that has this class will be hidden on screens that are 600 pixels, 600 pixels wide or more. And you can do the same thing with max width. So max width is the exact same as min width, except the inverse of it. So instead of 600 pixels or more, once this viewport reaches 600 pixels or less, then it will follow these rules. So you need to figure out, do you want to have these rules applied when something is bigger than the screen width or whenever it's smaller than the screen width? So you can use media queries to change the font size. You can use it to hide elements as well. That's a really common use of using it. And a really common use of media queries is to create a flexible layout. So for example, this layout, for example, is a responsive 4-column layout. So you can see this will kind of create 4 equal columns that floats next to each other. So each of the column are given this this class, and each column will follow these rules. So each column will float to the left, will have a width of 25 pixels and a padding of 20 pixels, and then clear the floats after they run the columns. So on screens that are, so this is using the max width attribute. On screens that are 992 pixels or wide or less, they go from 4 columns to 2 columns. So for example, if we use that, so 992, and we're going to move that until we get to 992. So now we've increased it more than 92, so it's going to follow the width of, so it's no longer using the rule of width 50%, it's using the rule of width 25% and puts everything in the column as well. And if it's less than 600, make the columns stack on top of each other. So for smaller screens, they want it to go on top of each other. So we're going to make it less than 600. And you can see everything goes to the left of it as well. So you can resize columns that way as well, to create kind of a bit more flexible layouts to your column structure. What you can also do with media layouts is change, for example, background colors, as we said before. So if the screens are 600 pixels or wider, we can also hide certain columns as well. We can use this to say display none. And that'll hide the column as well in 600, screen 600 or more. So you can see that media queries are used to kind of create different kinds of layouts as well, and make your layout more responsive as well to the device point that's being used. You can also use breakpoints in a way that shows between. So for example, if you use this rule here, so this rule here will basically apply all the rules that we add here, whatever that may be. So we'll say font size here, 25 pixels. So this means then this will only follow the rule of changing the font size of the class to 25px if the minimum width of the screen is 768 and if the maximum width of the screen is 1199. So it's in between these two breakpoints. So you can use breakpoints in that way as well to kind of set a between rule as well if it's in between two different types of breakpoints if that's ever needed. So another important thing that you might have noticed about grid layouts is about Bootstrap is that they use the column class as well. So you can use Bootstrap to modify columns with a handful of options for alignment, ordering, offsetting, again, thanks to their grid system. So the way they work is columns build on the flexbox structure, meaning you have options for changing individual columns and modifying groups of columns at that row level. You also choose how columns grow, how they shrink, and how they change. When building grid layouts, all content goes in the columns, and the hierarchy of Bootstrap grids goes from container to row to column to your content. On rare occasions, you might combine content and column, but just be aware that that can be unintended. You can have sort of unintended changes occur. Bootstrap include predefined classes for creating fast and responsive layouts, and they have 6 breakpoints at about 12 columns at each grid tier. So, for example, they have an alignment of 1 of 3 columns, 1 of 3 columns, 1 of 3 columns. You can see here, they have 1 of 3 columns, 1 of 3 columns, 1 of 3 columns. And just make sure to import all of the CSS rules as well. So you can see they've got a 1 of 3 column structure. And then they've also got one of 3 columns with a horizontal alignment as well. So if we change that to this container here, and they've got 1 of 3 columns as well. You can also do horizontal alignment. Remove the old layout and run that. So you can see you can use this row justify content star to change the alignment within each column. So instead of the column being default by center, you can align it so the column content is on the left, if it's on the right, and change the column alignment that way. So it gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of column design and column structure. And you can kind of play around with it and see which column design and structure suits the content that you're currently working for. And then you have column wrapping. So if more than 12 columns are placed within a single row, each group of extra columns will be kind of one unit and then wrap onto a new line. So for example, we take out this old structure. So you can see there's a column 9 here, and then you've got this column 4, and then since 9 plus 4 is 13, this breaks the 12 grid structure, so that extra column structure will get pushed onto a new line. So if you run that, yeah, so you've got this column structure, which is 9, the next column structure is 4, but that doesn't fit with the grid structure, so it'll use the 9, and then the 4 gets wrapped onto a new line as one unit, basically, and the other columns then will follow along the new line. So column breaks are another thing. So breaking columns into a new line requires a small hack. So you need to add an element width 100% wherever you want to wrap your columns onto a new line. This is good for kind of multiple rows, but not every implementation has that. So for example, if we were to add this column structure here, and you set the class width to 100, you can see that this width 100 will force the columns to break it into a new line, even though it's using a 6 column here and a 3 column here as well for small widths. You can do the same for like different column number sizes. So if we click here and paste the column small, you can see you can have the same structure but a little bit wider layout. So you can, there's a lot of flexibility with the layouts that you have, especially if you're using the with the 100% structure as well. Another thing you can do with Bootstrap grids is reordering and using the order class. So the order class is good for controlling the visual order of your content. So these classes are responsive, so you can set the order by breakpoint. For example, like order 1, order medium 2, and you can do that for all 6 grid tiers. So for example, if we use this grid structure here, you can see you can have different orders for that, and you just click run. So you can see first in DOM there's no order applied. Then you've got the second column. Even though it's the second column written, we've written order 5, so that has a larger order number. And then the third column, even though it's the third column, we set it as the order of 1. So you can see it took the no order first, and then it took the smaller order number, and then it took the larger order number. There's also responsive order one, order last, order first that change the order of an element by using order -1 and order 6, and these classes can be intermixed with the number order and then the number that you need. So for example, if we use this code structure here, we have the container row, and then you've got first in DOM, but we've labeled it order last, second in DOM, and we've labeled it unordered, and then you've got third in DOM, ordered first, and this is the order that it follows. So it follows the one that's using order first, and then it's using the unordered one here, so one without the order attribute, and then we've got the order last as the order last class. So you can use the order to kind of reorder your columns as well, and you can do that with the responsive design layout as well. Another thing you can do is offsetting columns. So you can offset grid columns in two ways. You can have the responsive offset grid class, and then grid classes on your margin utilities as well. So you can move columns to the right using the offset medium class, and then these classes increase the margin of a column by a certain amount of columns. So for example, offset medium 4 moves the column medium over 4 columns. So just to show you how that works. So you've got the container, and then you've got the column medium 4, and then you've got the medium 4 column offset as well. So that will basically offset the two columns, even though they're going to be beside each other. There's going to be spaced out between them. Same with this one. There'll be two columns, but they'll be spaced out, and same with this one. There'll be two columns. Well, there'll be one column that's going to be set to the middle. So if we run that, so you can see the first two columns here offset by 4, and you can see the second two columns here offset by 3. Then you've got the 6-3 mid offset that we set off by 3 as well. And in addition to column clearing at responsive breakpoints, you may need to reset offsets as well. So if you want to reset your offsets, if you follow this code here, and then click run, so you can see the column offset is have been reset at each class level as well. So if you use flexblocks in the version 4 version of Bootstrap, you can use margin utilities like margin auto to force columns that are normally beside each other to move away from each other. So for example, in this code here, so you can see we've got the MS Auto and we've got MS Medium Auto as well. So you can see these two columns would normally be beside each other, but there's some spacing between them. And you can see in this one as well, there's these two columns will be beside each other, but then there's spacing between them as well. And then you've got spacing in between these ones as well. You've got standalone class columns as well that you can use, and that can be used outside of a row to give an element a specific width. So whenever column classes are used as a non-direct item in the row, the padding it doesn't get carried forward. So for example, in this example here, so you can see with that, we've given this column a specific width. The first column is given a width of 25%, and you can see it's taking up 25% of the screen. And then we've given this column a certain width as well. We've given it another width of 74% above the small medium breaking point. So you can use those classes together to create responsive floating images. So if you wrap the image in a clear fix wrapper to clear the float if the text is shorter. So for example, So if we use this code here, and say we add an image, you can see that the image and the text, they float left to the text floats left to the image. And this kind of makes it easier for to add images throughout your text, and then that way people can read your text a lot easier. You just want to make sure you use the clear fix wrapper to clear the float if the text is a little bit shorter. So for example, if you would add more text, run that, you can see the text is a little bit more than the image, so it clears the flex. So it clears the flex and then it goes back to full width. So it kind of floats nicely wrapped around the image that we've set as well. So it's a really good kind of placeholder thing to do that as well. So gutters are basically the padding between your columns, and they're used to space your content and align your content responsively within the Bootstrap grid system. The way they work is that there's basically gaps between your column content created by, padding, so padding left, padding right, and each column, and use the negative margin to offset that at the start and end of each row to align your content. So gutters start at like 24 pixels wide, and this allows you to match your grid to the padding and margin scale, and they can be responsively adjusted. So you can use breakpoint specific gutter classes to modify horizontal gutters, vertical gutters, and all kinds of gutters. So for example, horizontal gutters, they use the .gx class. So if we get rid of this, so .gx, and then whatever the number is, they use that class to kind of control the horizontal gutter widths, and the container or container fluid parent may need to be adjusted if larger gutters are used to avoid kind of, you might get overflow basically, so you may need to adjust the parent classes. So using a matching padding utility, for example, will help. So for example, if we use this bit of code here, and you can see there is all of this here. And you've got the row with the gutter width here, and you just click run. And you can see there's a gutter width now of 5 pixels between the columns. Another solution would be to wrap the row with overflow hidden. So this row here, if you put it in a container class that says overflow hidden, to kind of help that as well, you'll get the same result. If you run that, you can see you get the same result as well. So that's one way to kind of use vertical glass gutters. That's obviously with the horizontal vertical gutter width as well. The other one then is vertical gutters. So vertical gutters use this line to refer to vertical gutters. So that's vertical gutter width and then whatever number it is. And they're used to kind of control the vertical gutter widths. So like horizontal gutters, the vertical gutters can cause some overflow before the row at the end of the paragraph. So you would need to wrap the row around with overflow hidden class. For example, if we add this row here, you can see between the two columns, there's that vertical gutter width as well, set to 5. And then you've got the overflow hidden as well, so you don't have to worry about the classes being hidden or anything like that. So this line here, so is the horizontal and vertical gutters. That's what you'd use to denote them. And these classes can be used to control the horizontal gutter widths and and the row gutter widths as well. So for example, if you wanted to use a smaller gutter width, you won't actually need to use the overflow class. So if we get rid of that and type in, so you can see we've got a gutter width of 2. If you run that, you can see there's a much smaller gutter width between each of the columns, and we don't need to use the overflow hidden to worry about sort of the space being used up. And then gutter classes can also be added to row columns. So in this example, if we get rid of this, you can see we've added the class up to the column, and we've added the rows up to the column as well. And we've got the several 10 sort of row column layout as well. If we run that, you see, there you go. So you can see that you can use gutter classes to responsively lay out the rows and columns. So it changes the gutter width depending on the responsive or the viewpoint that the row and gutters currently are in. You can also choose to have no gutters. So the gutters between columns in Bootstrap's predefined grids can be removed with the .g-0, and this removes the negative margins from the row and the horizontal padding from all sort of immediate columns within the parents. So if you want them to have no gap at all and you want it to be sort of edge to edge, then you would drop the parent container or the container fluid. So in practice, this is how it will kind of look. We can add it to above here. So we see we set the gutter width to 0, so that's not going to have any kind of padding at all. There we go. So we've got the different gutter widths. Here we've set the gutter width to 0. So there's no kind of section in that either. You can change the gutters. So classes are built from the gutter SAS map, which inherited from the spacer SAS map. So similar to how you wanted to change the width of all of the breakpoints, you would just look for the gutters attribute in the SAS map, and then just change the spacer values here. So you can decide, how you want to do that kind of layout as well. You can also use Bootstrap to change the colors as well. So Bootstrap colors, they have a handful of color utility classes to support styling for links with hover states as well. So for example, you can have the text colors. These text colors here. So you can see the text primary, secondary, success, danger, warning, light, dark, all of those are predefined color states. And if you click run, you can see what those color states are. So contextual classes work with anchors as well, and they provide hover and focus states. But .text white and .text muted has no link styling. So it's just the rest of the colors that you have as well. Similar to contextual color states, you can also set the background color of any element to any kind of contextual class, and then anchor components will darken over hover. So just like the text classes, background utilities do not set colors, so in some cases you'll need to use the text utility as well. So for example, if we use some of these classes, you can see we've got different background colors as well. And again, so similar to the text color, contextual text color, you can set the background images depending on the contextual class. So it is a bit limited, just if you do not want to set the color. So you'll need to use the .text hyphen asterisk utility to do that. You can also, so enable gradient is set to true, but you'll also be able to use .background gradient utility classes if you wanted to. To use both the colors and the contextual classes at the same time, it would look something like this. So if we take out all of that, so you can see we've got container background primary, which was one of the original background colors with the text white. Then all we need to do is type in the actual text. Use that font styling and that background style, color styling to the text that we wanted. So it's different to how you want to do different things as well. If we run that, you can see we've got the different background colors with the different styling. So we didn't need to set the actual background colors ourselves or the text styling ourselves. That was already predefined within the CSS rules for Bootstrap. And all we need to do is just use the contextual classes and do it that way and have it mirrored that way as well. On top of this is kind of using Bootstrap Alert. So Bootstrap Alerts provides an easy way to kind of create predefined alert messages. So for example, these alert messages are already predefined with Bootstrap. You don't need to go ahead and define anything yourself. You just need to apply those alerts to the code that you have. So you've got the danger, warning, success, and primary. So we didn't need to set the styling for all of those. Those stylings are already done for us. And you can see these are kind of warning boxes as well and what they're used for. So you can use the danger box to potentially indicate a dangerous action or a negative action, and the warning will give the association that this warning might need attention. Then you've got the success alert box, and you've got the primary alert box to kind of indicate an important reaction. And again, so these are kind of pre-designed alerts for you, and you don't need to worry about that either, doing it yourself. Bootstrap also has a set of predefined buttons that you can use. So they have custom button styles for actions in like forums, dialogues, and they've also got multiple sizes, states as well that they support. So they have each their own button styles, and they have their own sort of semantic purpose. So for example, their button styling class is all just here. So yeah, you can see the different button styles that they have. They're similar to the styling that they have for their background colors and fonts and things like that. So they've got primary, secondary, success, danger, warning, info, light and dark, things like that. And they're already pre-styled for you. And they all have their own kind of hover states as well. So it's pretty good if you wanted to kind of have your own kind of button link as well. You can use the examples that they have. So they use color to add meaning to, and it only provides a visual indication. It's not going to be, it doesn't use any kind of assisting technologies or anything like that. And then you would just need to add your link as well, just yourself, just with the link button here. The button tags is using the .btn classes, and they're used to be used with the button element. But you can also use these elements on the A link as well, the A attribute, and then linking them to use them in trigger in page functionality like collapsing content, rather than linking to new pages or sections. So these pages should be given a role button to convey that purpose for assistive technologies. So for example, section here, and then if you run that, you can see you've got the different links as well, whether you want input, button, link, all of that. In need of a button, but not if you want a button but you don't want the background colors, you can replace the modifier with classes with btn outline to give you a button that's not so color heavy but does have some color to it. So for example, if we use this code here, so you can see if we've got the button class here, the btn class here as well, but we've added a modifier called btn outline. If you run that, you can see the other set of buttons that we have, but only showing the outline of the button. So you've got different sort of styling options when it comes to the buttons, and different use cases as well. So it's up to you how you want to use those. You can also use different button sizing. So if you want larger or smaller buttons, add the btn large or SM or large or SM for modifiers. So again, if you take all this out, so you can say we've got the btn class, then we've got btn large and btn small. If we go to the smaller buttons, so btn large and btn small, and you can see the different buttons that we have with larger buttons and smaller buttons. So in terms of styling, you don't need to style anything yourself or configure. You just need to type in the type of button styling that you want, whether that's the primary styling, if it's a large button, things like that. And then you can sort of decide how you want to do those kind of button stylings as well. So it's a bit flexible in that way. So you do have some control over the styling, but it's all kind of predefined for you as well, using their kind of grid system and their flex system. There's not a lot that you can do with it, but they have lots of options, like can do with it to customize it, but they have a lot of options for you to pick from as well. You can also create block level buttons, so essentially buttons that span the full width of a page by adding the btn block tag. So you can see we've got btn primary, so that's using the primary colors in large, and we want it block. And then we've got the secondary colors, and maybe we'll change that to small, so you can see. And again, btn block will span it the full width. You can have block buttons like that as well. One thing to make note of is the states of a button. So essentially, is the button sort of in an active state? If it's in a hover state, it'll show different styling and different looks of it as well. So the active state buttons will kind of appear with a darker background, darker border. So like, for example, whenever I click into it, you can see that that's in the active state and it's slightly darker, and you can tell that it's in a different state, and it kind of notifies the user that it's in a different state as well. So it's a really good sort of user experience kind of feature to have. And then it's the same with the hover. So if I hover over the button, it changes state, so it's like a hover state as well. That all adds predetermined with the style classes that you add as well. You can make buttons look inactive by adding the disabled Boolean attribute to any button element. If we take this button element out and add this, you can see that these buttons are disabled. So this kind of removes the functionality as well. So the buttons using the disabled element behave a bit different. anything that's linked with the A tag, it doesn't support the disabled attribute, so you have to add the disabled class to make it visually appear disabled to put people off from clicking onto it. Some styles are include to just disable all pointer events, disabled all pointer events on anchor buttons, and disable buttons should include the aria disabled equals true attribute to indicate that the state of the element to assistive technologies as well. So for example, it would look something like this if you're using the disabled element. And it stops you from actually clicking onto the buttons as well. Other things you can do are toggle states. So add the toggle button, toggle to toggles a button's active state. So if we add a line like this and run that, we've got a single toggle, and you can see that you can manually add the active class as well. And you can see the single toggle being active as well. Bootstrap's button style can also be applied to other elements like the label to provide a checkbox or radio style button toggling. If you add the data-toggle equals button to a btn group containing those modified buttons to kind of enable their toggling behavior with JavaScript, you can create input buttons within your own buttons. And the check state is for the buttons is only uploaded via a click event. So if you use another method to update the input, like for example, input type reset, or by manually applying the input's check property, you'll need to toggle active and then label manually as well. So for example, if you run that, you can see you've got the check button as well. So it's a checkbox that kind of acts as a button as well. So you can use those button stylings for that. There's different stylings you can add to it. So for example, this one here, this is the radio, active radio styling. So you've got radio and radio here. So that you can use it for checked buttons, or you can use it for radio buttons as well. So there's a lot you can do with Bootstrap. There's different examples. Another thing to mention is that there's loads of themes that you can already get with Bootstrap. So you can build your own sort of Bootstrap theme, but you can also just go online and look for themes that Bootstrap already have. So if you go into Bootstrap's website, this is their themes.getbootstrap.com. You can see there's themes built or reviewed by Bootstrap creators. And you can scroll through and see which theme that you like. And they've got a whole bunch of themes, usually paid, but they are very good in terms of what you want your theme to do. So for example, when you're on this page here, you can categorize by what function or what kind of theme that you want. If it's for a portfolio or blog, if it's e-commerce or retail, you would just click one of the categories and you can see all the different themes that they have. You can click into each of the themes, and the good thing about all of these themes is that you can give it a live preview. So if you click on live preview, this is essentially a theme mode, so it'll show you what kind of structures you have. So for example, there's a one column and a sidebar, which is great for some blogs. You can have the blog content here, and then you've got the sidebar content here. And the nav bar will kind of show you different things that they have, so all their different components. So this is what their buttons look like. And you can see all the button groups, the disable buttons, checkbox, radio buttons, the block buttons, what that looks like. The other things that they have, like their forms, this is what their forms look like, with all the font sizing and things like that. With the home page, you can decide if you want the 3-column layout. So this is their 3-column layout. Do you want maybe the full width layout as well? So you can see this kind of full width. So that's got none of the padding or anything like that we've seen earlier. And then you can give different posts as well. So if you want, how do their images look? How do their video posts look? That's all kind of predefined for you. So you can go through each of their themes, see which ones you like best, and just pay for a theme that you like. And that saves you from having to code your own kind of Bootstrap theme. You can if you want to, but if not, you do have different things to do as well. You can go onto their individual pages, so sometimes they'll have pre-designed pages as well, and see what that looks like. And the other good thing is that you can also switch between desktop or mobile, and then you can see what their responsive pages are like. So are their buttons responsive? Are the carousels responsive? Is their menu responsive? Are their column structures responsive? Things like that. There's different licenses you can have. So standard license, multi-license, and extended license. So standard license will give you it for one single product, as in you can only use it on one website. And then the multi-site license, you can use it on an unlimited amount of websites. So if you know you want to use this theme on more websites, then maybe the multi-site license will be better. Obviously, there's a bit of a price difference, so you need to look at what your own budget is and what you actually need the theme for. But once you've selected something, you just click Add to Cart and just proceed to checkout as normal. And just type in your billing details and things like that. Bootstrap themes are really good. They have really good reviews. Their average rating is between 4.9 out of 5. They'll give you free updates once you've purchased a theme, but they also have 100% money back guarantee. So if you try out one of the themes, even after you've previewed it, but you bought it and you've tried it and you actually don't like it, you can get your money back as well, hassle-free. They also include up to 6 months of support when you buy a theme as well. So in the beginning, if you're just starting out, if there's any issues, you can always contact their support and have any issues resolved, basically. But every single theme that you can buy on their website is reviewed by the Bootstrap team. So you know that at least what you're getting is well-designed, well-coded, responsive, and a really popular design as well. And the good thing is that they also come with a whole bunch of tools as well. If you go into Bootstrap's website and then go into the guide, it'll show you how to set up for local development, how to actually run your theme, which files are source compiled and which files are static, and how to kind of integrate with different kind of frameworks as well. So yeah, different things that you can do with Bootstrap. It is definitely an option for you if you want to get involved. But yeah, definitely check it out. Bootstrap 5 is currently the most updated version, but they do have availability for the versions below that if you were to use for example, a different older version of the browser.
And that's a wrap on today's video on JavaScript fundamentals. I hope you find this video informative and inspiring, and if you enjoyed today's content, please sure to like and subscribe for more. If you have any questions or thoughts, please leave them in the comment section below, or if there's anything else that you'd like us to cover, let us know and we'll cover that as well. Once again, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you in the next one.